Hi, good afternoon. We're so glad you could join us on this Google Hangout. We had a couple of technical issues, so we're starting a little bit later than we had wanted to start. But we're all ready to go. We're going to share this Google Hangout screen with our team. We have Sarah Freeman from Domo who is moderating this for us. So as the presentation continues, if you'll just submit any questions in the little chat area, I think on the top right section of the Hangout, and we'll go ahead and get started. So this is part 2 of 15 Google tools that will rock your brand. And for those of you that were able to join the first session, we were cut off after about 20 minutes, and it was great. Pete Codella from Alexander's, who's accredited in PR and knows Google in and out. He's a great presenter and expertise on Google, and I love hearing him speak. He's going to present the second half of his presentation. So I think we have about 7 or 8 Google tools left, and I'll turn the time over to him so that he can give you the rest of the tools that can rock your brand. Pete.
Thanks, Mark. So this is really fun. I know Google tools and the internet and computer hardware sometimes, and I don't get along. So we had one mic would work and one video wouldn't, and this is the third computer today. So here we are. We're going to pick up off from the presentation a couple weeks ago, and we're going to start with Google Analytics. And what we're going to do, because we're just on this one computer, Sarah's sitting by me but actually can't moderate while I present, is I'll go ahead and go through the rest of these slides. Please jot down your notes or submit them, like Mark said, through the Google chat, and then I will address them as we finish up here. So there'll still be plenty of time for us to talk through some of these slides. You should see the logo and icon for Google Analytics, and hopefully you are very familiar with Google Analytics. One thing I'll say about analytics is a lot of times IT departments will manage that and have control of that. Be sure that you as the marketing or communication person that you also have access and that you understand how to use the different information that's presented. Okay, so we're looking here at an example audience overview report from Google Analytics. You can see the sessions and users, the page views, the time that's spent, and the bounce rate. I'm sure you know the bounce rates. They come to your site and then they leave. They bounce off. I'm always intrigued by the amount of time, the average time they spend on the site. I think that's an interesting mark to look at, as well as users. You can change the time duration that you're looking at. You can look at the last week, the last month, and then over on the left, obviously there are all these different menu items you can look at. Some real-time information, some acquisition information. I like to know what the referring URLs are so that I can tell, hey, 10% of my web traffic is coming straight from Google search, or I've got 12% coming from links that I've shared on Twitter. That kind of information is really useful to us, I think, as communicators and storytellers, so that we know where to focus our attention and put those stories, distribute them basically online in the places where people will be able to engage with us. So Google Analytics, make sure that you've got it installed on your websites or your blogs, and that you have access to this dashboard, and that you know what the information means. Something you can do online, this next slide here, and I've got the link at the bottom of the slide just like before. Check out the Google Analytics Academy. Google is really great. Most of these services we're talking about are free, thanks to all the money that they make from online ads, but they provide so much good training. So this site right here is built just for analytics, and there are videos and tutorials and examples and reports and all that kind of stuff. So Google's great at delivering those kind of learning tools for us, which honestly sometimes in our busy days we don't take the time to learn. But I would recommend, on all these tools, set aside a little bit of time to go through and become familiar with them and figure them out. So Google Analytics, it's a must-have. You got to have it operating on your sites, and then you got to pay attention to it so that you know what kinds of content are attracting the most attention and engagement from your audience. That's my 7th Google tool. Now I want to talk a little about Oh, this is another screenshot from Analytics Academy. Look at the bottom. This is some of the training that I was just talking about. Google Webmaster Tools, and it's google.com/webmasters. So you can link your site to Webmaster Tools, and it gives you kind of some additional insights regarding your page's visibility on Google. It's important. And when we first did this broadcast, the day before, Google had just said, I'll read you this quote from Google's Jade Wang, one of their technology guys. You know, he says, starting today, and this is the end of July, if you're verifying a page for your business, so you're on Google Maps, you're going to verify your page, then you can be instantly verified on Google My Business if you've already verified your business's website with Google Webmaster Tools. So this is another trend we're seeing with all these tools. You know, I know we've listed a dozen and more here, but you will find that they're going to be intertwined more often. And here's an example. Just recently I went to set up a Google Plus page for a business. I actually started with a Gmail account, set up the Google Plus page, then I went to maps.google.com, found the location of that business, and actually Google had it off by like 3 digits of a number. So I had to go to Maps and change the location, and it was actually from Maps that I was then able to set up a Google Plus profile and a Google Plus page. So here's my takeaway, here's what I learned. That if you don't have a listing, remember early on I showed you what the search results look like on Google, and if you haven't claimed it, they have that little sentence at the bottom that says, are you the business owner? That's actually where you want to start. So you want to start on Maps, and if it's not claimed, click on the Are You the Business Owner and go through the process to claim it on Maps first, because then that ties the connection and the verified location to what you're going to do on Google+. So hopefully that's helpful. But Google Webmaster Tools, look here, Education, Help Center, and again, tons of videos, tons of information. There's a whole Webmaster Academy. You can go through different modules and take quizzes. You know, I approach this as a PR guy. That's my training back in the 90s, and when I started in agencies, that's what I did. Wrote press releases, did media relations. But I have moved into the technology, and I paid more attention. And honestly, people ask me, you know, how do you know what you do about social media and all this? And it's because I'm a student, always a student, and these tools are on the internet. And I would advise you to do all you can to learn and to continue to gather the information that you might need. So Google Webmaster Tools is the 8th thing. It's kind of an addition to Google Analytics that you can tie to your website. But before I talk about this next tool, Get Your Business Online, I need to restart the screen share. Sorry, I just got a note. We're having tons of fun here, and we're all learning about Google Hangouts. So screen share. Share. And then we'll go here, and you should be able to see my... Sarah's going to check that for me. I'm glad I've got her by my side this time. You all know that last time she was at Domo, I was at Alexander's, and we had the UTC guys here, and Cheryl was in her office. So between the 4 of us, we had a little bit of an issue with the internet going down at Domo. But now we're all in one place, so it's a party. Okay. Google Webmaster Tools and Google Analytics. What I was going to say is I have an experience with the client who we have analytics on their site. We're trying to work the content up in Google search, and they've advised us not to connect Google Webmaster Tools yet because it basically shines a spotlight on your content. So be sure that your site is pretty much functioning and looking the way you want it to, and that it has the right content on it and the right structure, and then attach it to Google Webmaster Tools. That's my advice there. Okay, I think you can see my screen. All right, we are on Get Your Business Online, and that's just gybo.com. That's clever of Google. But it's interesting to me how Google has personalized this to Utah. Just by the IP address, you can see the logo in the top left. You know, it's Utah, Get Your Business Online. Of all the tools I'm talking about, you know, the Google My Business, new platform, all that stuff, you should probably start right here with Get Your Business Online. If this is new to you, just go to that URL and follow the content that's here, watch the video, and this will kind of show you all the Google tools, I think, wrapped into one. You can see the maps, you can see the building your website, the customized domain name. So this is kind of a great resource and a great starting place. I probably should have put it first, but I wanted to be sure we had the time for Google My Business. So gybo.com, a good place to start, and that's the 9th Google tool that I plan to talk about. Now, these next few slides have to do with a tool that I know, you know, and probably spend too much time on, like some of us. That's youtube.com, okay, purchased by Google. Very wise move. I think that they foresaw the shift from text and just plain information online to a multimedia environment where we're sharing video and things are dimensional, not quite dimensional, but multimedia video. I do think, by the way, we're going to get to the point where it's going to be more like Second Life on the internet, and the virtual experience is going to be more like a three-dimensional experience that we have. But that's kind of a side note. So YouTube, I love what Jimmy Fallon has done with his YouTube channel. I love the fact that in Utah, I can see clips from this evening's Tonight Show before it airs on the television. I think we've seen this over and over on the internet, that the information there is distributed so fast that we often are getting news and information and entertainment now from the internet before it's served over the traditional broadcast waves. So things are going to have to change there as well. But Jimmy Fallon's a great example for sparsing up his show, putting short little clips on here, and most of them are hilarious, by the way, and sharing that content through YouTube. And some might argue, why would NBC support that? Why would they want him to put that content on the internet as opposed to making people watch or pay for cable and watch NBC? It's the future, folks. I mean, that's where the content is. Everything's going to be through the internet, all of our entertainment and communication. And NBC and Jimmy Fallon are using the tools to their advantage, I think, to drive awareness of and interest in what he's doing on the show. And guess what? This drives behavior and drives people to watch his show on NBC. So it's kind of an expansion of just the singular broadcast channel on TV. I said that like my uncle does, on TV, to the internet. Okay, so Jimmy Fallon, a great example. Look at this. Visit Utah. Some great content here that's available. And the perfect thing about YouTube sharing, and a lot of the smart TVs now, by the way, you can go to YouTube and log in, and you can view all this content right on your flat screen TV. We do that in our home. But the Mighty 5 campaign and what Visit Utah has done with these short little ads and commercials, a great way to share your content online, get people to engage with you online, and reshare that content. So every company, every organization ought to think of YouTube as their own private TV channel. Commercial free, you put your own stuff on it, right? So we have the tools to be broadcast. And that's actually a challenge at my organization, Alexander's, that we're working on right now, is how do we transition from writing text to producing video? We're going to actually address that as a PR committee here at UTC in an upcoming meeting. So another good example there. Now, other uses for video, what I want to point out. This is a search on YouTube for how to tie-dye shirts. My family got together this summer. My wife went right to YouTube and learned how to tie-dye all the cousins' shirts. And it's a prime example for what people do to look for this kind of video content. In your brand, in your company, in your organization, for your brand, for your products and services, are there phrases you can type into YouTube to find what you do? Like I could type in how to self-publish a book, right? And I would hope that I could create content that then will be served up by Google when people are searching for that. So think in terms of the consumer who's going to go search directly on YouTube or on Google and type in a question, and you produce content that answers that question. So this is just an example on the channels that show up for how to tie-dye shirts on YouTube. This is an example of a woman who cute girls hairstyles, who every week, I believe, has a new girls hairstyle video that comes online. My wife and daughter go to this religiously on Sunday mornings, and I just stay out of it. But she has created a business for herself with showing these little videos, tutorials. And seriously, you guys can do this to buy a digital video camera for 99 bucks or 200 bucks, and you can create a YouTube channel and figure out how to edit it. Just use iMovie on a Mac, or some other, Adobe Premiere is great, but some other tool to quickly learn how to edit video, and you're there. Pretty cool. So just an example of someone who's pretty much, and this is, she's made a living doing this, and this is an additional channel she created, Brooklyn and Bailey. The girls are a little bit older. So a spin-off YouTube channel. Just like TV channels, now we've got these YouTube channels and people making money at it. And speaking of that, look at the piano guys. Probably most of us on this call are familiar with their story, but they started this YouTube channel. Now, I've never received an answer on how much this cost them to take a piano to the beach in Hawaii, or I don't know what their production costs were, but they invested in sharing music through video on this YouTube channel, and guess who picked them up? Sony Records. Maybe it's been a year or two ago, and these guys are traveling the world now and got a great record deal, and good for them. So great way to use YouTube is to tell your story visually. Be sure that the titles and descriptions you give your content include keywords, and be sure you include hyperlinks and even your logo on the videos. So those are some of the tips I have for YouTube. Let's talk about our 11th Google tool, and that is Google Trends, which is just kind of interesting, I think. You can go to Google Trends and see and visualize the trending topics on the web. And it's a different way to serve up the information because you can see there's kind of bar charts and all that kind of stuff. So here's an example of I searched for Utah, you know, and interest over time. And on the timeline you can see the letters there. And you can click on it and it'll take you to a specific news article which will talk about basically a trending topic. So do this. If you're a large enough brand, do it for your brands or your company or your executives or whatever who might have content shared about them online, and see what the interest is over time. This is another related search for Utah. It just shows you the rising and the queries related to Utah. So, you know, if I'm University of Utah, I'm going to think that's pretty cool. You know, more people are looking for us than Utah State or other things. So that's my 11th tool is Google Trends. Now, this takes us away from Google a little bit, but it is a tool that helps you communicate with Google. This is for WordPress, and by the way, I recommend WordPress.org as the software and platform to host content for your company online. Even websites now, I think, could be built on WordPress, but definitely blogs. So this plugin, Google XML Sitemaps, allows you to tell Google what content is on your site. Okay, I think my next slide here, yes, it does. So this is from my blog post about how to measure the number of times content has been shared on social platforms. I think this is a pretty awesome tool. You can go to Social Tally and type in your URL. So I could put in petecodella.com, which is my blog, and hit submit, and it'll return a big long list of all the times that content from my site has been shared on social media platforms, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Google+, I believe. And it's pretty cool. And you can even click on submit multiple URLs there in the middle. And this is where, if you go to this blog post, it explains how to get the XML sitemap from a blog, which gives you every URL for the whole blog. Then you click on submit multiple URLs, and you paste all of those in, and then for every one of those URLs, so basically every page on your site, it tells you what social shares you've received. This is kind of another way of doing what I told you about with Google Analytics, and that is look at what the most popular content is on your site. And this in particular shows you popularity on social platforms. So I love that, and you can check out that link, and I'm happy to answer questions about that. So I'm moving back to a Google tool. This is tool number 13 in my list, and it is Blogger. You know, Blogger is what I started sharing my family's adventures on in the early 2000s, and then Google purchased that in 2003. It's got great SEO benefits for content because it's tied into Google. I've seen some brands put a site right on Blogger and talk about a product or brand right there. It's a good way if you're not familiar with blogging. It's a fast, free, easy way to start blogging on your own, become familiar with the platform, and then take those skills and move them over, I think, into a custom WordPress.org installation and a custom URL. That's my advice. Now, on Blogger, you can create a custom URL. They have custom domain options available. So you can go to blogger.com and look at some of the information here. But if you haven't blogged, this is a good way to start, and it's a good tool because it's tied directly into Google search. So that's what I wanted to say about Blogger. Here's a tool, and I do get a little pushback on this. FeedBurner takes your blog RSS feed and puts it on steroids. And Google purchased FeedBurner. I can't remember when. It's been a while. It was after they purchased Blogger. But what it does is it allows your RSS feed to be portable. Okay, so if I have a feed at petecodella.com/feed, and then I paste it into this field right here for FeedBurner, then it will say, okay, here's your new feed, what do you want to call it? And it'll be feeds.feedburner.com/PeteCodella's blog, or whatever I decide, right? Now that becomes the URL that people subscribe to get updates from my blog. So what happens if I change from petecodella.com/feed to petecodellablog.com? If people had subscribed to the original feed, I'd lose all the subscribers. But because they're subscribed to the FeedBurner feed, all I do is change a setting on the back end of FeedBurner, point it to the new RSS URL, and I still have all my subscribers. Sorry if that's really complicated, but I love FeedBurner because it is portable, also because it provides statistics on who's subscribing to my feed, also because it allows people who subscribe to receive that content in their email inbox. Email inboxes can get unwieldy, and a lot of people are unsubscribing from newsletters like that. But if they're going to care enough to follow you, but they feel like, oh, I'm not going to always go back to the site to see what's happening, provide the RSS feed, give them the option to get it in their email inbox. You'll be surprised. And then you can also take those emails from FeedBurner, copy them, paste them into your email marketing software, and include those people on other communications that you do. So FeedBurner is an awesome tool. You have to have a Gmail account. Hopefully you've seen, as I've talked about these Google tools, you can understand the importance of that primary Gmail account for your company that you use to log into these tools. FeedBurner is awesome. Not a lot of people use it, so good opportunity. That's my 14th tool, and my 15th tool is Google Hangouts. So we chose this format to kind of demonstrate the capabilities of Hangouts, that it's free, that you can log in. When I was a graduate student at the University of Utah, I got on Hangouts a lot in the evening, late at night, with my teammates, and we would work through assignments that were due the next day, usually until early in the morning, but that's just the way it goes. Hangouts is fun for kind of, I think, informal get-togethers, hangouts like that. You can see the applications and decide for yourself here if it's something you can use for business. A tip that I would give is definitely have a producer, someone in addition to the presenter who can kind of keep things running, and then field questions as they come in. And Sarah's been great to help us with that, even though some of the technical issues today prevented us from doing that completely. But become familiar with the dashboard for Google Hangouts. You host it from your Google Plus page, so you got to be sure that your page is set up and verified and linked to your YouTube channel. Those are some of the Hangout tips I'll give, and maybe if Sarah wants to jump in later, she can do that as well. A couple parting thoughts, and then we're going to go to Q&A here. People are increasingly mobile, both for consuming content and even sharing content. You can look at some of these stats and see, people are accessing Facebook on smartphones, and YouTube traffic is coming from mobile devices. I don't even know if 4 or 5 years ago I would have thought that I could be, camping and I would stream a video from YouTube to show someone something that I thought was funny, So that's increasingly happening. Key takeaways, hopefully, through what we did a couple weeks ago and today, my philosophy I'll share is that you've got to have more than one website providing content. Usually it's in the form of a primary company site supported by a blog and a newsroom and activity on lots of social channels that are all driving people to specific information. So kind of a hub and spoke model. You've got to pay attention to how your content looks in more places than just a desktop computer. It's got to be desktops, tablets, mobile phones, even flat screen TVs that can surf the web. See how your content looks in all those places. Be sure that you've got a website that can adjust, okay, that's dynamic for that. Google Places and a verified listing on Google Plus is another must-have. You should be actively engaged on all these social platforms. And something that I think has changed with Google's recent Penguin update is online reviews are even more important than online directories. So pay attention to where you're listed, to what information is shown about you online, contact information, as well as what consumers have to say about your products and services. Do what you can to encourage people to go to Google through their Google Plus profile and leave a review of your product or service. Get them to go to Yelp. You know, there are lots of online reviews places that are going to really help you. And again, remember, all those are accessible through the Google My Business dashboard through the Reviews tab. Even reviews from around the web, not just those left on Google. Frequently tell your story. Okay, share content that conveys that story, whether it's video, whether it's pictures, whatever it is, and then engage. I think people want to interact with people. The more brands can have a personality and share fun and engaging content, the more success you're going to have online. So I feel like the more Google services you use, the better your content places in Google search, and that when you measure, you can improve. If you're not measuring, you really don't have a clue. But go to Google search and type in product, brand names, people's names, services. Where do you show up? Record it, come back 3 months later, and see where you show up again. And I feel like the more organic content that you share through these social channels, through blogging, the better opportunity you have to kind of manage and control and get more top search placement. And then finally, I'll say, you know, just focus on one platform at a time. Google Plus is kind of a big thing because it's tied into Google Maps and Google Places and tied into Google Reviews. So just focus on one of those things at a time, become familiar with it, and then move on. If you want to reach me, you can here about .me/Pete Codella, and also feel free to tweet at Codella. And I'm going to go back to this and look for comments. So tell me, Sarah, you might want to come over here. If you have questions, okay. If you have questions, now's your chance to submit them. We're in the UTC boardroom, if you can't tell from the legendary people behind me. But hopefully this introduction to Google My Business and these other Google tools will be helpful for you, even if you have a presence on the Google Plus page. And some of those takeaways hopefully will be very useful. So I think what we'll do, we've got a couple technical questions here that came in earlier, which I think we've already addressed. But I think we'll wrap it up. Mark, do you want to say anything at the end, or do you want to have a discussion over here? So on behalf of the PR committee at UTC, we appreciate this opportunity to share this content and hope that it's been useful, and hope that you'll look for future events. And thanks for joining us. Take care.